Hello there, welcome to episode 89 of Never Mind the Bullens. It's your bite-sized Everton podcast and vodcast. I'm Mike Pieces. A couple of things to reflect on before we get to the game against Borehamwood, or Borehamwood, because it wasn't exactly the most enthralling of matches. But I did mention in the last episode about the show of support pre-match for Alexander Zinchenko of Man City and Vitaly Mykolenko, and the whole situation in Ukraine. That's going to be shown again in the Premier League this weekend, obviously at Tottenham on Monday and across all of the matches. And obviously the knock-on effect of that whole situation has been the fact that we've had to suspend our deals with USM and Megaphone, etc., and Yota and all this. And I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. I think, if sport can do anything, it's to make a stand and show solidarity with the people. There's nothing necessarily material that it can do other than try and impact those financially. The sort of situation and the show of support on Saturday before the game was really, really moving. Playing the Hollies, which of course, if you cast your mind back a decade to when the Hillsborough Independent Panel published its report and the two children that came out the following Monday night, the game against, I think it was against Newcastle, if memory serves me correctly. No, it wouldn't have been, would it? No, it would have been still under David Moyes. I forget who it was against now. But the game came out, and those two children, and that song now is so evocative. And then it was taken up to another level by playing Imagine before the game on Thursday night. And the show of solidarity in sport was really moving, as was the song, which always gets me, to be honest. Obviously, the situation with Alisher Usmanov is a complicated one, and there's Everton are one of the clubs that are most sort of heavily linked with Russian ownership, obviously apart from Chelsea, who've had a seismic week. But it's all very well sort of cancelling and suspending those deals and all the rest of it. What that means in a real-term impact for the club, we don't know. Obviously, yet whether he's still pulling the strings behind the scenes, he probably still is, because you can't just sort of get rid of him in that way. But to do anything else would have been entirely hypocritical when you've got a Ukrainian player who obviously, captained the team on Thursday night. And to have that show of support, it has to be married up with actions by the club. How that plays out over the coming weeks and months is obviously going to be dictated by the situation itself in Russia and in Ukraine, of course, and let's hope for a speedy resolution to that, because it's absolutely horrifying. Watching men sending off their wives and children to other places so they can stay and fight is just something I don't think any of us of any age ever thought we'd see in the 21st century in a modern Europe or a modern world. But that is where we are. On to the game on Thursday night, and obviously the decision to make Mykolenko captain was a lovely gesture, which had obviously been matched by Man City the night before. Whether it had any impact on the actual sort of game management, I don't know. But it was one of those games. It as opposed to the last two matches at home against Leeds and City, where it's all been, the atmosphere's been really there and really everybody's been hyped up for it. This is very much a sort of return to the new normal, in the sense that people were sat there going, right, it's Borehamwood, come on, rubbing our hands together and saying, entertain me. And that just didn't happen. The atmosphere was flat. I was actually sat for the first time in 3 matches, although a lot of the Gladys Street was still sat. I was still stood. I was quite happy to be sat because I'd taken my pregnant partner with me, and she was 20 weeks pregnant. So we have taken our soon-to-be baby boy to his first game at Goodison, and apparently he was very active during the game, probably more active than some of the players at times. But what struck me was that Borehamwood came with a game plan, obviously being really, really tight, and trying to stifle it and make it very difficult for us to get through them and to create opportunities. But I didn't understand why we didn't, after we got to sort of 60, 70 minutes and they were still in the game, we were only 1 goal up at that point, that they didn't come and actually have a go and try and eke themselves a replay. The game was obviously clearly, let's stay tight, let's stay disciplined, which they did, and much respect to them for that. But thinking to themselves, right, at some point you're going to have to try and get yourself in a position where you can create a set piece from which you may be able to get an equaliser. And they didn't seem to do that, which I found a bit odd. But our play at times was we were very one-paced. There was a lack of energy. There was a lack of impetus. It was the complete antithesis of a cup tie, really, in terms of a traditional cup tie kind of blood and thunder, 100 miles an hour sort of atmosphere. It was much more like a pre-season friendly in a lot of ways, which I found unusual. Atmosphere wasn't brilliant, but then there wasn't much to get excited about because we weren't being given anything to sort of get excited about. So, obviously, dominated possession, 80% of possession Everton had, but as the old adage goes, it's not how much possession you have, it's what you do with it that counts. And yeah, we had 23 shots and 10 of those were on target, but it didn't really create a huge amount. Solomon Rondon, yes, he scored the 2 goals and he's been a match winner, and there was a bit of sort of black humour in the Gladys streets. There's a chance sort of late on in the game, if Rondon scores, we riot. If Rondon scores, we're on the pitch. If Rondon scores, we're on the pitch. Rondon scores, we're on the pitch. Just to give you the full sort of, tuneful, as best as I can, rendition of what was actually being chanted, which was quite funny. Because it had all the hallmarks of a game against Queen's Park Rangers in the FA Cup back in 2013, 2014, when Nikica Jelavic scored 2 and then tried to Panenka a penalty as he was sold to Hull a few days later and hit the crossbar. And you're thinking, if he scores, actually, there was a free kick late on in the game and Gladys Street screaming for Rondon to be given it. He wasn't, and he didn't get his hat-trick. But he is a bit of a fox in the box, really. Let's be fair. I mean, he's absolutely lethal from in and around the 6-yard box. He scored from about 9 inches against Crystal Palace in his first goal, and scored, from within the 6-yard box for both of his goals or thereabouts on Thursday night. The time wasting from the Borehamwood goalkeeper, I couldn't fathom either. But it's... Yeah, I just found it a bit baffling, but we've got through. We're in the last 8. I think that's pretty much all we can say. An away game against Palace, which I'm not displeased about because there could have been worse draws. City, Chelsea and Liverpool hopefully being kept apart in the draw. So there is the chance of us getting to Wembley. Obviously, it means that the league game at Goodison on the 16th of April is going to be moved, which I'm also quite pleased about because I was probably going to have to miss that one owing to a work commitment. But now, if it's moved, I won't have to. So happy days. I'm just hoping that work commitment doesn't interfere with any semi-final because I'll be gutted because I didn't get to go in 2016 to the game against United either. So it is 10 years this year since I've been to Wembley. So hopefully we can get to that. But, I was surprised that Lewis Dobbin maybe didn't get a little bit longer. Could have done a bit more with a bit more sort of around Solomon Rondon sort of in the second half. But, won the game. Michael Keane was a bit off the pace. Jared Branthwaite looked okay. John Joe Kenny, I thought, played quite well. I thought Abdoulaye Doucouré and Anthony Gordon were the only ones that showed real energy. I thought they were terrific. Alan was very solid again. And Josh Townsend not at the sort of at the same level that he's been really for a large part of the season. But we're in the FA Cup quarter-final. It's a nice distraction from the league. We go to Tottenham on Monday night. I'll be watching half of that in a pub in Warwick because it's my brother Simon's birthday, who I know listens to this. So hello, Simon. Happy birthday for Monday. And then the second half probably on my iPad in the car. So we shall attempt to get episode 90 dropped on Tuesday morning, and I'll fail to keep to my my contract that I would get this episode up on Friday because I was watching the Batman, so I was distracted. And watching which bits of it were filmed in Liverpool. Going, no, there's Anfield Cemetery. I walked through there to get to Goodison on a Saturday. But yes, Tottenham on Monday night. Tottenham are very, very inconsistent. It is a game we can actually go and win if we play with anywhere near the sort of level that we played against Manchester City. And maybe we can cash in that IOU for a penalty that we seem to possibly have been given, courtesy of the Premier League. Because giving us an apology is useless. If you're going to apologise for getting the decision wrong, give us an IOU penalty. We'll lob it on the pitch like they do in American football, flag on the play and all that, and then we can have a penalty. We'll take that, 0-0, 89th minute. We'll take the penalty, which we should have had against them at Goodison in October, and happy days, we'll have 3 points in an away win. That'll be absolutely delighted. So if anybody from the PGMOL can deal with that, that would be absolutely terrific. Thanks very much. If you want to get in touch, you can do at NMTBpod on Twitter or nmtbpod@gmail.com on the email. This has been a top content production, and until the next time, come on you Blues.